Great to have you back on the program. So what is the outlook as you're looking into the dynamics that could play out next year?
So we're expecting more of the same. We have seen a bit of a boost in demand recently, and we think that will sustain into next year, which will support more home sales, more price growth. And also the people who have been putting off selling a home for so long are finally starting to give in and list their homes. So we think the market will be a bit better next year, but not a whole lot given that mortgage rates still remain quite high.
What's the magic number that you're anticipating on the mortgage rate front where we could potentially see some averaging out?
Well, prices are already reflective of current mortgage rates. So we're going to see sales even with these high mortgage rates. If mortgage rates were to come down, say below 6.5%, something closer to the 5 range, then I think we would see a large burst in demand, more bidding wars, more price growth than even what we're anticipating right now.
Certainly. And taking a look at some of the predictions here as well, even as we're showing that 6.8% rate on the screen for our viewers here, you're also anticipating that home prices will still rise 4% in 2025. Why is that?
Well, a lot of people have been delaying buying a home, thinking that mortgage rates were going to fall. And now that it looks like mortgage rates are going to stay pretty much where they are, there's no reason to wait anymore. So even though rates haven't come down, we do expect more buyers to come back. Also, the economy is growing, and some people are really ready to buy a home and can pay in cash to avoid those high interest rates. So I think demand is going to be stronger.
Daryl, I wonder, especially as we've heard so many business executives talk right now about the incoming Trump administration and anticipating less regulation. In that environment, what does that kind of pass through to the housing market as well?
Well, housing supply is incredibly constrained by things like single-family zoning and red tape that holds up development. So if we did see any progress on that front where it's easier to build homes, especially those denser homes in the places where people most want to live in urban metros, then that could go a long way towards increasing supply and really juicing the overall housing market. But I'm not expecting that to be an overnight change. I think that will take some time to play out. And these high interest rates make any change that could happen, that will probably happen slower because builders aren't going to be eager to build if their borrowing costs are so high.
So what does that mean for renters as well? And what does the rental market look like looking out to 2025?
We think it's going to be a renter's market in 2025, that rents will stay flat as incomes grow, making renting more affordable. And that's because there are vacant units right now. A lot of construction that was started during the pandemic is still coming online, still needs to be filled with tenants. So there's going to be a bit more supply next year. And even though builders have slowed down, that delayed reaction means that the new units coming on right now, there'll be more of them.
You know, one of my favorite things to ponder and just think about for myself, and I imagine a lot of people out there are also thinking about this too, is just how dramatically we've seen weather really shift and global warming and climate change, and how that's also priced in, or at least playing into a little bit more of the thought process for potential buyers. How are you anticipating that might be a factor?
Well, for the longest time, Florida was an incredibly desirable place for people to move to because of its weather and because of its affordability. But both those things are changing. Florida home prices and rents are quite high now, and insurance costs are going up, making borrowing to buy a home or financing a home even more expensive. So that is making housing more expensive. And also, the state is not drawing as many people in because people anticipate that climate change could be a bigger problem moving forward. So Florida is still a relatively strong market, but it's not as strong as it used to be. And I think that there are real risks that it could weaken as the affordability situation worsens, as the climate worsens.
I want to get generational with it too here. As we're thinking about millennials and the makeup of new home buyers, Gen Z too, they're going to start to really look through properties, try to figure out where there are opportunities. So what are you seeing specifically among some of the younger cohorts of potential buyers going into next year?
Well, a lot of Gen Z is probably going to decide to rent next year because renting is more affordable in most of the country than it is to buy an equivalent home. But in some places, we're seeing quite a lot of Gen Z buyers, like in affordable metros, such as in the Midwest, that didn't really get all that expensive during the pandemic, are still relatively a good value. We're seeing more younger buyers there. And the older buyers, they're still going to Florida and Arizona, as they always have, even though the climate has been worsening.
Daryl, great to see you. Thanks so much for taking the time. Excellent insights as always. Appreciate it.